All right, well, welcome everyone, and thank you for sort of coming a bit closer. I appreciate it. I introduced myself before, but Shannan from Rosterfy. So the purpose of today is I really want as much interaction as possible from the room, because the purpose is about how do we learn from one another. And we as a business work with organisations all around the world. We're in 71 countries as a platform, and so there's a lot that we've learned from different customers. And so I want to go through each of the key stages from recruitment all the way through to insights and impact reporting. And for each of these key stages, we're really lucky to have Beth from Fieldays joining us. And she'll be going through some of her learnings with Rosterfy, but also just generally about what have we learnt from each key stage. And then I've got some other customer points about what are they doing in the UK or in North America that we can all learn from. But as part of that process, I'd love people to put their hand up and say, hey, we tried this recently and it's working really well, or questions about, but why, or how could we do this? And I really want this to be as interactive as possible, okay? Tatiana in our team has been amazing. She's the one that's sort of put all this together. So quick round of applause to Tatiana. And so Tatiana, we've got a couple of sort of breakout activities to sort of challenge you a bit, and hopefully some work that you can take home and go, I was thinking about it this way before, and maybe moving forward I can think about it this way, okay? So it's going to be pretty short and sharp as we go through, okay? So excuse me as I sort of flick through things pretty quickly. So yeah, this is us as a business, 150 million hours of volunteering we've now done across the world. So it's a lot of experience there that we've gained from a lot of other similar organisations to you guys, all good, bad and ugly. And so hopefully today I can talk about some stuff that people have tried and it hasn't worked too, so that we can all learn, okay? Here's just a very quick sample of some of the customers that we work with, hopefully, that I'll be referencing throughout today as well. But as you see there, typically on the largest scale of customer is who we focus on. And here's a little thing, a design that our team did about like what's possible to achieve with 150 million hours of impact, because I think, why do we exist? It's about making impact, and here's the real life of what can be achieved with that amount of hours of volunteering. I think that's really important to show. And the thing that not enough people talk about is the $4.5 billion of labour that would be cost to replace the volunteering work that we're all helping to deliver. Okay, so here's the agenda. Sort of the other thing out of today, we've got a bit of a sneak view into a big report that Volunteering New Zealand have done as well. And so we've got some of those findings today. And so a bit of a discussion around them, but more so, it'd be really important. I want to make sure we can send this deck through to everyone that's interested, and it sort of summarises a few of these learnings too. So I think Kelsey will be around shortly, there you are, to just get people's details to send them this report, okay? So that'll be one thing we'll focus on, and then the journey as I spoke about, and then some insights. Oh, it looks like we're logged out, that's fun. So I was gonna kick it off, maybe it doesn't make sense to start with this, I'm not sure. With a poll, Tati, on the screen here. Maybe it will load up in a second. There we go. All right, so can everyone just pull out your phones, please, and just scan this one here. And this is just a very quick pulse check so that everyone can sort of see how everyone else is feeling about their program at the moment. That's the objective. It's all anonymous, so don't worry. It's no one's... Oh, my big head's in the way. And I think the purpose here is, it's not about trying to be super satisfied or whatever. I think it's about going, do you have the right funding for your program? Do you feel well supported in your organisation? Do you have wait lists for your volunteer roles, or are you really struggling? You know, you're just getting by. Your organisation's not really leaning into volunteering as much as maybe they should. That's the objective of this. We've got another poll after this as well. Cool, anyone still waiting there? I think most people are in. Okay, so pretty, I guess, standard approaches there. Interesting to see a couple dissatisfied and very dissatisfied as well. Nothing major we'll be taking out of this immediately, but hopefully some good learnings for you to see how others are feeling, I suppose, in the room. If I move to the next one, here's maybe a sample of how others are managing their programs at the moment. So what are we all doing to manage our volunteers? Maybe a common thing that we see is there's a lot of customers that are trying to configure and custom build CRMs like Salesforce and etc. to manage their volunteers, and maybe some learnings about that later too. Cool, so yeah, those are the top two, which makes sense. And horses for courses too, not everyone needs so much to run their program. Okay, so the objective today and the key takeaways we want out of this room is around optimizing your funnel. Because I think a big thing that we see with our customers is people aren't looking enough at the detail of how many volunteers are dropping off from trying to help you to then not hearing back, getting a bad experience, waiting 6 weeks to hear from you. People aren't looking at that enough. And I think that's a big thing that we need to focus on. So optimizing your funnel is a key one. Next one is around adopting technology. And this isn't about Rosterfy. This is about how do we just better move forward and where does your program look in 5 years' time? Defining success and taking action. So this is probably looking at your funnel and then learning from these things and being able to be decisive about the way you move forward. Insights from real-world case studies. So this is where Beth's insights amongst the room, I think, is really important to just learn from one another. And maybe a good chance to just reference the great work Kelsey's done this year with Volunteering New Zealand. The first Tuesday of every month, is it, Kelsey? Kelsey's been running a webinar series with lots of people, some guests already in the room, where we just share knowledge about what's your program doing well and what can you learn from. So I just would really encourage you guys to either come over to our stand later and register or whatever you need to do, but just join this community of others that are learning and making mistakes and how do we improve. So I just want to make sure we continue to learn off one another. All right, so this is almost less for now and more to read in the report afterwards, okay? So there's a lot of information on the screen. But I think this is a big adjustment the report focused on, was a movement towards casual volunteering compared to the volunteers that are hardened on and just do everything for you all the time. And I think that's a big adjustment, which makes a big adjustment to your lives in volunteer management, because you really have to adjust the way that you promote your program, manage your volunteers, retain them, etc. Okay? And then the last one there about digital tools as well. As we saw before, quite a few organisations still using spreadsheets and sort of workarounds to manage their volunteers, when the point of this is more so about if that same volunteer is getting a fantastic experience digitally with an app, whatever it might be over here, and then they're coming to your organisation, and that can be sometimes turning volunteers off. And then we've heard a lot of this from our customers about saying how helpful it is that there's a central place that they can go. The next one's around under-resourced, under-trained, and I think we can all resonate with some of these things. Again, have a quick read, but I'll be emailing this through to you. And the evolution of volunteer motivation. So I think this is a really key one. We, as I sort of mentioned before, Rosterfy is rooted in getting young people engaged, and so we've got a lot of experience around how to best engage young people. And I've got some case studies later on about some customers that have been able to evolve their database of volunteers and adjust their demographics as well, because I think that's something that's really important to future-proof your program as you grow. Okay, and then these are just simply the summary points. So again, more for the deck that you'll receive, but just wanted to highlight them in here. So I'll skip through them. All right, so Tati, we'll get the cool. Tatiana's handing out some pieces of paper now to everyone. This is a bit of a quick activity to be like, fast forward a few years' time from now, what's happening to your program when these scenarios pop up for you, okay? And so for you to just start thinking and writing down some things about how you'll be reacting in that time and what do you need to start thinking about now to be prepared for these things, okay? So a few of these questions that I guess we're starting to see now, but they're going to be happening more and more each year from now, is around remotely volunteering. And again, this isn't possible for all organisations, obviously, but these are the things Gen Z and the next demographic of volunteers will be asking for. Do you offer short-term or one-off opportunities? Can I get a reference or a badge, and digital badging as well? How do I use this on my LinkedIn? When will this help me build skills for my career as well? So what's in it for me? And I think there's a lot of that, but there's also a big adjustment in the way, especially Gen Z and the younger demographic, are wanting to connect to a cause and less connection to the big brands necessarily. So I think what did it look like 10, 15 years ago? There was probably less charities and less causes, and people just aligned to the big one that was near them. Now the next generation have much more information about the specific niche thing over here that they want to help with, because that's what they really care about. So how do you connect directly with these people and offer them these sorts of things? So I want to give you some time now to just sort of start writing some things down. And then we've got a microphone that we'll hand around, and maybe just some findings and being like, oh, I haven't thought about it that way. So I'll give you some time now to have a work on this. All right. Hopefully I've seen a lot of good conversation here. It's good. You may not have finished it yet, but that's okay. Maybe we'll just keep moving a little bit so that, and I think we'll have some time at the end maybe to flesh it out a bit and say, like, what did we think or what did we notice from that? I want to move on to the next part of our session today, which is going through each key stage of the volunteer journey. And at each key step, I'll have a microphone that will start with Beth to be like, hey, what are you doing at Fieldays? And then we'll move around the room for other people. And it's okay, if there's no suggestion, no problem, we keep moving. But I just want this to be as inclusive as possible. So the first step in the journey is around awareness. So how do people find you in the first place? We've got our amazing partners Seek in the room. Clearly, to me, that's the number one place everyone should be going. But there's lots of other ways to be finding awareness for your program, okay? So we might start with you, Beth. Your microphone okay? Yeah, nice work. You can, even if you're comfortable to sit there, that's okay. It's up to you, or you're welcome to sit up here too.
I might just come
yeah, fantastic.
I don't like my back to everybody.
Yes, fair enough. So, yeah, and it's also a journey too where, do you want to talk about where you were a couple of years ago as well?
Yeah.
And sort of why you even moved forward with software in general in Rosterfy?
So where we started, well, when I took over the role in 2022, we were very much embedded in the whole Excel spreadsheet, Access database. It wasn't a sustainable way to continue looking after our volunteers that way. So that was the catalyst of us looking at something that was going to be able to bring everything into one place, one source of truth, so that we could then start to really manage those volunteers better, be able to support them better, attract them better, all of those things that come with volunteers. I think from your question, Shannon, around, how do we, or that question there about attraction or awareness, sorry. As I said in the last time with the panel, our brand is really, really powerful, so that tends to attract our volunteers. But the other parts and the other ways that we do it is through word of mouth. And we have a really big volunteer base, so those people are speaking to other people. We also have the privilege, I suppose, of having a very good media coverage, with the fact, again, the brand. So we can call on our media partners and we can put things out into that space to be able to get more volunteers to come on board.
Perfect. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So I'll now just flick through some of these key things that I see. When we look back on our experience, these are the key things that we find. So understanding the demographics that you work with. Naturally, there's probably a younger skew and sometimes an older skew too. And it's about personalising that experience, about what do they want from it to begin with. And especially for the younger people, putting on a silver platter about exactly what are you going to get from this experience too. So really tailoring that experience. So many organisations we see have a standard process for everyone, that everyone has to go through everything. And especially if they're really detailed on long forms and the way that you have to go through things. So many organisations, it takes volunteers 6-8 weeks to actually, from expression of interest to being an active volunteers. And looking at the drop-off of that data of how many people just go, you know what, I've had enough, I tried, and I can't be bothered anymore, move on to the next thing. So really tailoring that for that person and moving to impact as fast as you can. And the next one is around data-driven. So you need to have live visibility, especially in dashboards, of all of your recruitment campaigns so that you can see where someone's getting stuck. For example, at the police check stage, well, there's a huge spike of people that have got there and haven't progressed to the next stage. So from our experience working with major events like the Super Bowl, next year will be our 10th Super Bowl that we'll power as a volunteer platform. One thing we've learned from them is having configurable automations that will prompt those people through that journey. So having someone that gets to that stage, and if they're stuck there for 3 days, here's the comms that go to them. If they're stuck there for a further 7 days, here's the SMS that invites them to drop out of the journey as well. So instead of your volunteer team needing to send them emails or remember to check, oh, where's Jeff at in the journey? That's completely unscalable. Having automations that run that personalization experience for you is really critical. Personalized roles, similar to what I talked about before, about another thing that we see is a lot of organisations say, come help us, and here's the roles in general, but you then have to go through a standard reg. You don't register for the specific role, and that's why we actually developed this with Crisis UK, one of the largest homelessness charities in the UK. For each of their, I think they've got 14 different roles in the business. You filter and find that role, and I'll show you this shortly. And then from there, you apply directly for that position and go through just the required info for that role to reduce the time it takes. Partnerships. I've got a big section on this later. How do we grow our database pool and community by engaging other partners like corporates, for example? It's not suitable for every program, but if we can think about it, how's it look? Being inclusive. Here's a big one that we worked with the City of London on, where a big thing, being a government body, was making sure that they're as inclusive as possible. So having things like screen readers as part of the volunteer journey, multiple languages volunteers can choose from to make sure they feel connected to that organisation. These are things that, if we look at what great looks like, that's what great looks like, and it's something to think about. And some of these platforms, like a UserWay, is a plugin that you could use tomorrow, okay? And these things can just make your programs more accessible. Continuous feedback. So a thing that a lot of our clients do is embed feedback forms, automated feedback forms after every shift, or once a month, whatever it might be, and then centralise that feedback about how you can improve things. A lot of our clients now embed these at the end of the recruitment journey to say, how do you rate it out of 5 stars? As an example, what's one thing we could improve? And they're centralising this info to continue to learn. This is this public opportunities page I referred to. So this is a way that volunteers now, it's kind of the inverse of recruitment. So instead of needing to go through this big long reg process and then finding out what are the roles that are actually available, this public opportunities page will show you exactly how many shifts and slots are open for every single role that's available in the business, so you're not wasting your time going through 6 weeks of onboarding and then getting told there's not a position for you in Auckland, it's only in Christchurch, as an example. So this is a live feed from all your schedules that publishes live on a public page that anyone can filter and find, and all the filters are configured by the customer. And so that might be, do you want to work in a warehouse or drive a van, etc., and that will then dictate the journey you take from that point onwards. This number here, the 125%, is a thing I think no one's thinking about enough. British Heart Foundation, 25,000 volunteers. They doubled, more than doubled, 125% the amount of volunteer hours they did in the first year or 2 years with the same database. Because a volunteer previously just saw, I work in a warehouse on a Saturday morning, I don't do anything else. But having a central portal, they're able to see, oh, on a Wednesday afternoon, just where I drop my kids off, there's an opportunity I can do to drive vans. And they were able to promote these opportunities of areas they needed filled by creating a central portal and profile for a volunteer to say, you're interested in these sorts of things. Did you know there's something down the road for you to do that? But what's really important with that is that you can upskill those volunteers to do these roles as well. So to say to that volunteer, the warehouse is needing more volunteers, it's 600 metres from your house, you need to do a food safety certificate and embed that as part of an automated journey. So the volunteers can do it themselves, compared to needing admins to manage it all themselves and email them the forms and wait for them to do it, because that's where everyone gets bogged down, and that's when the volunteers say, I tried, I can't be bothered anymore. And then I've got a very quick video. And so we spent a lot of time developing a mobile app that we wanted to be the best mobile app for volunteers specifically. And so I just wanted to put this together and show you what this experience can look like as well. It's an example of the training being embedded as part of those journeys. And then this live tracker, that's where volunteers know every step that they're up to. I think that's one of the most important parts, is that the volunteer isn't sitting there going, where am I up to? Am I waiting for someone to call me? Why haven't I been given a shift yet? It should all be live in front of them. It's the reward and recognition. Cool. All right, so that's the awareness side. Yeah, perfect. So a question, Tati's the mic. Perfect, thank you so much. Yeah, any suggestions, questions, comments, please?
Thanks. I just wanted to say on the awareness side, use your local volunteer centre as well to help promote your opportunities and spread the word. Every one of you will have a volunteer centre in your region, and we work for your organisations to promote your opportunities. We have platforms, we engage with volunteers or potential volunteers looking for roles. So whatever platform you're using to manage your volunteers, we can help funnel people through to that, match them to your specific roles, and most of us do it for free. So you don't have to think twice about it. We also put things up on our social media for different roles. We have a list of all the roles on our websites with a similar display. So yeah, cool. Use your volunteer centre. We're here for you.
Thank you. Anyone else on awareness? I might just get one more if there is. Anyone got any suggestions about how they're helping promote their opportunities out there really well? Yeah, up the back.
I'm coming.
Good work.
I'm just curious,
yeah.
If you're advertising other volunteer roles, how many are you potentially losing through that process? Because if they're volunteering for you and then they start, because you're advertising everyone else, and then they start for a different organisation, do you carry stats of how many through that process?
To be clear, what I'm showing on the screen is each client does this themselves. So that public opportunity I showed you, if you work for the zoo, as an example, that will be the zoo's page, and only the zoo's page, okay? It is certainly something on our roadmap to discuss around how do we co-share and work together, but right now what I showed you is each customer has their own thing, and this is all created instantly when you create these forms. All right, so if we move on to recruitment. So Beth, I might steal you again, if we can, please. So again, you've heard their story about where they've moved from, and I know that forms capturing is a really important thing for you. Do you want to talk about the recruitment and the registration process?
Yeah, sure. So for us, I suppose if I can just go back a step, Shannon, on that process, because I was looking when you were talking about the journey and how you talked about, there's specific stages of that onboarding or recruitment process. We don't particularly use that, and I think why we don't is that we have one event per year, big event, and so our volunteers are coming for that event. So, when we also talk about, or we have talked about, volunteers are looking for more one-off opportunities, or where they're not committed to doing every week or every fortnight and things like that. So I think that's, for us, it's a little bit different to what some of the things other Rosterfy customers might be using or other volunteer programs. But for us, it is around once that volunteer has come into the system, they come into a certain checkpoint, and at that point we can see, we do our interview, we invite them in so that we can meet them, and then they have to go through a compliance process to move into the next checkpoint so that we know that they are compliant with our policies and all of that kind of stuff, and then we consider them as a live volunteer. So that basically is their journey. There is no other part that they do. Does that kind of...
Yeah, it does. And I think for you now, you've got a centralised database.
Yes.
So you'll be promoting back when the event comes around next year. You're going back to your first volunteers first, compared to necessarily wanting to bring in new volunteers each year.
Yeah, that's right.
Fair?
So definitely. So we have a form that we send out, and it's the Fieldays availability form. So we do that, and we get all of the data and ask them, are you wanting to volunteer, yes or no? And if they say no, why can't you volunteer? So we get some information from them from that, and that just helps us understand, is it because they're going overseas on holiday because it's wintertime and it's summer overseas, or is it that they're ill, or whatever the case may be? So that helps us build that as well. And the forms work really well for us to gather that data, and then when we're doing our search things through the filters, we can then pick out what we want to see and who we've got and age gaps and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Lovely. So a couple of ones here. So what I wanted to focus on here for recruitment is about how our clients use corporates as well. And when I say corporates, this can be any type of group. It doesn't have to be an ANZ Bank or whatever it might be. This can be just local partners, running clubs, whatever it is, okay? But traditionally, so many people don't do enough of it because it's so hard. And corporates can rock up and say, we want to bring 15 people tomorrow, and are you ready for us? Oh, bad luck, we'll move on to the next one. It's pretty common, I would imagine. Does that sound common, guys? Corporates are tough to deal with sometimes. Yeah, because I think that's a key one, is around how do you empower your groups to connect with opportunities directly, save time, and get them straight into shifts, compared to the manual process of saying, hi John, you're bringing 15 people, who are they? And hopefully they all turn up. You're now able to register them all in under the same group in the platform, and you have all those 15 people's details so that you can follow them up as well. So Sydney Marathon, as an example, they grew to have 1,700 different groups of community in the platform because they're able to invite them to create their own world where they can manage their own people. The same for London Marathon. They have 11,000 volunteers each year, and each of those groups, I think 8,000 of those 11,000 are done by groups. And so just opening people's eyes to be like group recruitment can help get your numbers up significantly. Okay, community partners. So Tati has already handed around the sheet, I believe. You've got another form in front of you, a separate one. And this is around having a think about, if you haven't done this before, middle table there as well. If you haven't done this before, have a think about who would be some community partners you could think about that might be great to add to your community. All right. We can keep working on that as we go. But if we keep moving on the process here, I think this is an example of that conditional logic. This is replacing the need for all the manual stuff that you need to be emailing people with. As much of this should be as rule-based and automated as possible. And here's just an example of how some of our clients might do that. Cool. So Oz Harvest is one of Australia's largest food relief charities. They previously tried to do one of those CRM workarounds. They spent 12, 18 months to try and do it. Nothing eventuated. And for them, the biggest thing was they went from a 6-week onboarding process for new volunteers. It was actually to 2 days. We've said under a week here, but their CEO recently came to us and said it's 2 days now for new volunteers to register. And again, that's all due to the automations that empowers volunteers to run it themselves compared to getting backlogged by people needing to send them emails to progress them through the stages. So just a live example of someone that tried to do it very slowly a long time ago and then needed to adjust, and this is the impact that they've been able to see. And the World Scouts is another great example. They used to have 8 full-time staff managing the onboarding of new volunteers. They now do it with 1, and those 7 are now out speaking at universities and growing the program. So having less hand-holding as part of the program, and this was in about the first 9 months. And so how do you automate as much of this work so that you can actually do the work you enjoy doing and growing your program compared to in the detail and whatnot. And every program's different. These are just some examples. So training, I might, just for Beth again, just to talk about the online training. Everyone does it different. Some organisations do in-person training. A lot of our clients are using our online training modules to do it online. And I think, Beth, if we can touch on this one quickly, and then we'll be wrapping up shortly in a couple of minutes as well. So thank you.
Okay, so I actually did write some notes around this one. So training is a key component in volunteer growth and development. And we're actively working on creating those training modules, as I did mention in the previous one that I was speaking. Growing our learning library. And this has been made so much easier with the Rosterfy's training module, their training functionality, which has been amazing. It also allows us to track the training progress with the volunteers and how they are progressing. It also gives us an idea of what is specific to the organisation as a whole, e.g. the compliance stuff like policies and volunteer commitment statement versus actual role